Hey everybody, it's Bruce here from Stock Markets with Bruce. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is all about Tesla. The question I have for you today is, if you were a buyer of Tesla shares when they went public back on June the 29th, 2010 at 17 bucks a share, how are you doing? Did you make any money? I think you did. Let's talk a little bit about the history of the Tesla company. Unbelievable. Thank you for joining me today. It's Bruce here. I appreciate you following me. Thank you for giving my videos thumbs ups. And if you get a chance, check my other channel called Traveling with Bruce, where we love talking about cruise ships and travel. All right. Tesla, back in 2008, this was the vehicle that Elon Musk was frantically trying to get out to the public. They had sold a bunch of these two-seat sports coupes, all electric, no gasoline engine whatsoever, and they were trying to convince the public that you could buy this car, travel a couple of 100 miles on a charge, and when you got home, all you had to do is plug it in. If you took a 240-volt outlet, similar to what, say, your washer or dryer use, you can charge this car up even overnight and drive it without gasoline. Of course, it was a hard sell because where do you take the car for charging if you're going on a longer trip? You're really restricted to kind of sticking around town. It's not really designed to hold a lot of other, goodies. I mean, it might hold a golf bag, but it's a two-passenger car with limited range. But this was the future. Elon Musk was saying back in 08 and 09, the future is electric, and this is the first vehicle here to prove it. Watch how we grow this company. And they did a lot of publicity shots over the years, and with enthusiasts, they loved this car, and they sold quite a few of them. Going fast forward to 2010, when the company went public, it listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange. It was a triumphant move. The company had already raised quite a bit of capital privately, and now they went public at $17 a share, and they raised a bunch of cash, and they began to build. The company knew that they had to have a factory where they could produce their cars. They had already bought an old General Motors Toyota plant in Fremont, California on the cheap. The timing going public was interesting because it was just after the financial meltdown of 09 and 010, or 08, 09, I should say. So by the time they went public in 10, the economy was just starting to recover. And they had to basically build out an entire car factory from scratch rather than General Motors or Ford or Chrysler just changing their production lines. They bought this place right here. This was the Fremont General Motors and at one time Toyota car factory that had been abandoned, left behind. And they started converting the inside of this factory to basically produce electric vehicles. Now, the one advantage of starting a car company from scratch is that you don't inherit all kinds of old, useless equipment. You basically can start from a clean slate and install, in effect, a practically fully automated production line. The amount of workers required to produce a Tesla compared to the amount of workers that would have made any kind of a car in the 50s or 60s or 70s, it's stunning. Of course, GM and Ford and the others have also reduced how many people work inside of a factory. But this company here, they started with about a third of that factory to start producing the first car that they wanted to deliver to the market, which was going to be called the Model S. They wanted to bring out a vehicle with 4 doors in a sedan format to show the masses that you could have a vehicle produced robotically like these right here, and the quality would be top-notch. The car would be totally utilitarian. I mean, a 4-door sedan with a hatch-type back would be available and be useful for a high percentage of automobile owners out there. The key here was to be able to produce the car in a high-volume format and keep the price reasonably affordable. While that was going on, this plant here was being designed, and the construction started in the mid-2010 range, around 14, 15, 16. This is the Gigafactory in Nevada. Tesla needed a place where they could produce enough batteries for all of the vehicles they were planning to produce, because they were talking about 50,000 vehicles, 100,000 vehicles, 500,000 vehicles a year, which was unthinkable by some of the analysts. A lot of pessimists out there after this company went public thought they would never make a dime, and that the shares at $17 were a stupid idea to invest in. Well, the company came out in 2010 with their first vehicle design, and by 2012, this vehicle hit the streets, the Model S, and it quickly became a favorite among enthusiasts. The car sold very well. Many versions and upgrades have been done to this model since. It's now been 8 years that this car first arrived, and this is what she first looked like. It still doesn't look out of place today. The inside of the vehicle, with that giant screen between the driver and the passenger, and the acceleration was absolutely unbelievable. While all of this was going on, the company had to juggle quite a few balls at the same time. They had to make sure the quality was top-notch. They had to make sure the reliability was there. This car is allowed and is designed to be updated from the factory with software uploads. While you're sleeping, your car is constantly being monitored and being updated by the factory. No other car company can do that. They had to start building out a system where the cars could be charged up. This car, when it first hit the market, was able to drive over 300 miles on a charge, which was also unheard of, had never been done before. They announced at Tesla that they would come out with a second car, a second vehicle, and that was the Model X, which is an SUV with those gull wing doors. And this vehicle hit the roads in 14-15 and was a sensation as well. Again, though, this was not a cheap car. Like the Model S, this car here, you're looking at $60,000 to $100,000, depending on how far you decked it out. But they proved to be quite versatile, quite popular, powerful, and the fans love this car. The Tesla people absolutely love this car. After this vehicle came out, they started announcing another vehicle that was coming. That was the Model 3. I'll show you that one in a minute. But in the meantime, let me show you a chart or two of the first few years of the publicly traded stock of Tesla. If you bought the shares at $17 when the company first went public, take a look at the first chart here on the far left. This is August the 2nd, 2010. The shares are trading at $19.59, a couple of months after going public. And on July the 30th in 2012, a couple of years later, they were still only in the $27 range. So the first few years of being public, the shares didn't do a heck of a lot, but they didn't crash either. They didn't go down to zero like a lot of pundits thought. But while this was happening in the first few years, the company was building out their Supercharger Network, and the first bunch of superchargers that were built out of California going up to Vancouver and British Columbia, across Arizona, and then north and to the middle part of the country, South Dakota. You could drive all the way to New York and all the way down to Miami, and then there were a few superchargers in Texas. Fast forward from 2012 to 2017. Look at this. 2017, you could crisscross America over several routes, north and south, and you could drive in Western Canada and in Eastern Canada. And then by 2020, which is today, take a look at the Supercharger Network for North America. It is extensive. You can now drive right across Canada. You can drive everywhere in the USA. You can now drive all the way down to Mexico. And this charger network will be continually expanded going forward. The reach of a Tesla is phenomenal. This is why the company is going to be around a long, long time. Over in Europe, this is what Europe looks like today. There's even a charging station in Iceland. There are charging stations in the Mideast, in the United Arab Emirates. There are charging stations near Israel, and of course all over Europe. And this is why this company guaranteed its survival. Once it built out the Supercharger network for those Model S's and those Model Y's, there were a lot of fear factor and fearmongers. I guess the fearmongers, they were cast aside, and now people knew that they would never run out of a charge driving a Tesla. Now here are two more charts. On the left we have the 5-year chart, what the stock has done in the last 5 years, and on the right you'll see a chart, same time frame, but you'll notice that even May 2019, you still could have bought the shares at $189 a piece. Today they're over $1,000. And so at $17 original purchase price when this factory was first acquired, you've done rather well for yourself. If you bought 100 shares of Tesla back in June 29th, 2010, 100 shares would have cost you $1,700. Today, they're worth over $100,000, and this company is nowhere near finished in moving forward. Again, other photos of other vehicles here going forward that have come along. Here is the new Model S. This is what they look like now with the different hood on the front. Lots of technical advantages and advancements have been made. The cars are even more efficient. They go even further on less electricity. In other words, they're more efficient than they were when they first came out. They now come out with engines in the front and the back. They have all-wheel drive. They're as fast as lightning, and the price is still about the same as when they were first built. Here is the Model 3. This car was a sensation. In 2015-16, they announced that this car was coming out in 2017-18, and advance orders of upwards of 500,000 of these cars were placed with a factory with $1,000 deposits, and this car has not let people down. The Model 3 has been a huge winner for the company. They have been cranking out hundreds of thousands of them since. The orders still keep coming in. The next vehicle on the list that they have announced is what a lot of people have actually been waiting for, and that is an SUV in the size of this Model 3 car. And that is the new Model, what is that? The Model Y. That's right. The Model Y is the next one. And it's a hatchback that is now just starting to appear. Photos, you'll see of them in just a minute. This here's another image of a Model 3. Sleek design, very simplistic dash, and yet as intelligent as all get up. All the knowledge that the Model S and the Model X and the Model S have attained, and all Model 3s are continually fed back to the factory as the cars talk back to the factory talks back to the cars, and the cars just get smarter and smarter. This is a photo, I believe, of the Tesla Gigafactory in Germany outside of Berlin. There's now a Tesla factory in China for production for the Asia market. The company is now worldwide and will be producing Teslas around the globe for all markets. Here's the Model Y, the new SUV version of basically a Model 3. It's got a slightly, of course, a higher profile, obviously, and the length of the wheelbase might be a tad different than the Model 3. Tons of YouTube videos out there you can watch about these vehicles and their specs and the dedicated owners that just love them to death. But these vehicles here, the Model 3 and this model here, are now priced in the $30,000 to $55,000, $60,000 range. Here's a pickup truck of the future. This was just announced last year or so. They did the big unveiling. An aluminum type body, a radical design difference. It will be interesting to see if the final version coming off the production line looks anything like this. Here's another version here of the truck with a vehicle in the back that you can roll right into it. These pickup trucks are heavy. They're like 5,000 pounds. They'll be able to tow unbelievable weight, but again, they're battery powered, so the torque on these things are just unbelievable. And to finish off my video, here's a stock chart of General Motors, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Tesla from 2010 until 2020. If you would have bought shares of all of those companies back in 2010, you can see where you would be now. Tesla is clearly the winner at a 4,000% performance. Netflix is number 2, Amazon number 3. Apple still has done rather well. Of course, remember, Apple's been around for 40 years. Just think about that, 40 years. And, of course, General Motors and Ford right at the bottom. They haven't done quite so well with the shares. Anyway, there you go. There's a recap of the history of Tesla. And to give you folks an idea, if you would have bought 100 shares and taken the chance in 2010 to ride out the highs, the lows, and everything else with all the skeptics, you'd have done well. And even if you bought the shares a couple of years ago, you'd have done well because they have really performed lately. We'll keep watching it and see how it does in the future. Thanks for joining me today on Stock Markets with Bruce. Hope you enjoy the show. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. Have a good one. Bye for now.